ها؟ وين؟ خوا انت لبيت ما تفضحيش ماما، ما تفضحيش والناس معموله، انت خفيفه تتهز. لو يتشدوا ما عندهم وين نموتوا. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد، اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد، اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد، اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد. نسيت ماما، اختي شو ماما تراها بتهزك، انت 50 كيلو طالعين فيك.
قول عليهم.
اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد، اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد، اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد. نفخت كبير.
قولوا ما تحركش بركة.
وراه ما كاينش والله بعد مولد.
ما تنساش الحاج بشير.
صور لي طوموبيلي باش من بعد صور طوموبيل تاعي زوميها
وراها هي
ها وراها البيضه هذيك السوزوكي هذيك. وين السوزوكي الالتو هذيك؟
وراهم ها.
نيرة.
او عاد عليك حاج بشير.
هنا. مليحه مليحه. زومي ترى الالتو هذيك.
الشمسية.
كانت هي 10
زومي بيتي فيديو شوف. كم احنا شو نعرف غالي
راح
ربي يستر
راح تموتوا
ربي يستر
راح تموتوا
يا شهداء والله حكموها يا شو مسوي لك حكمي في الفوطو نندب عندك يمشي الطوابيرات هذا مرة كلها على بالك
Um 18:19 Uhr hatten wir die Alarmierung, dass in der Ortschaft Hackenstedt der Borbach über die Ufer getreten ist nach einem Starkregenereignis. Also hier in Sottrum war es so, dass unten in der Wasserstraße das Wasser circa einen halben Meter hoch wirklich durch die Straße strömte. Wir haben unten also 5 PKWs, die ineinander verkeilt waren. Wir haben auch teilweise in den Gärten, in Gräben, Autos, die dort hingespült wurden. Also sowas an Wasserkraft habe ich hier bei uns oder sowas an einer Katastrophe noch nicht gesehen. Als ich nach Hackenstedt kam, sind also schon Stützmauern eingestürzt gewesen. Die Hauptstraße war völlig überflutet. Das Wasser ist schon durch die Gärten und teilweise durch Wohnungen und Häuser gelaufen. Unsere Aufgabe ist es oder war es, dann die Schäden entsprechend einzudämmen. Wir haben die Straßen geräumt und haben natürlich die Keller ausgepumpt.
Если что, дверь подокрыть громко, не открывалась. Я потом так выдавлю.
There were no signs of any respite from heat in Delhi on Sunday, with the maximum temperatures settling 4 notches above normal at 44.6 degrees Celsius. The sizzling heat wave continued with a hot Sunday morning, while the minimum temperature settled 3 notches above season's normal at 30.4 degrees Celsius. The humidity levels oscillated between 44 and 15%. The weatherman has forecast clear skies on Monday. On Saturday, the maximum and minimum temperatures were recorded at 42.6 and 28.7 degrees Celsius respectively.
A horse went berserk on the streets of Jaipur due to intense summer heat. The animal crashed into a car. The driver, we are given to understand, escaped with minor injuries.
This incident has happened on Sunday afternoon at around 1 p.m. at Jacob Road in Jaipur, where this horse has gone berserk as Jaipur was sizzling at more than 45 degrees of temperature on Sunday, and the horse got disturbed and it started to run here and there on the street, which is a main thoroughfare towards the Jaipur railway station. So it is a big busy road, and horse collided with many cars before crashing into the windshield of car of Pankaj Joshi. Even though it was fortunate for him that he escaped unhurt with minor injuries, and horse was also rescued from the car by the bystanders later on. This incident was a bizarre incident which happened within 10 minutes of the incident. And obviously, Pankaj Joshi didn't have any idea that the horse running toward his car will crash into his own windscreen. But it was fortunate for him that he has escaped with some minor injuries. He was later treated in the local primary center nearby and was released to his home. And horse was also given primary treatment afterwards.
At least 13,000 people in Assam have been affected by flood, officials said today. Also, landslides triggered by incessant rain disrupted rail connectivity to the state's Barak Valley region. Assam State Disaster Management Authority officials said at least 13,000 people have been affected due to the year's first wave of flood in 28 villages in Lakhimpur, Jorhat and Biswanath district in the past 24 hours. Besides, landslides in the hilly Dima Hasosa district snapped rail link to Barak Valley. The Northeast Frontier Railway had to cancel a passenger train to Silchar from Lumding on Saturday after landslides affected the hill section.
Heavy rainstorms coupled with strong winds continue to lash many parts of China, forcing the National Observatory to renew its blue alert in central, southern and eastern country. According to the National Meteorological Center, heavy rain will continue to hit these areas through Tuesday. Torrential rain is expected to sweep parts of the central China, including Shanxi, Henan, Hubei, Hunan, as well as the southern provinces of Fujian, Guangdong and Guangxi. Thunderstorms, strong winds and hailstones are also forecast in some of the areas, and the Weather Center warned of risks of torrents and landslides.
Miami Beach, along the southern tip of Florida, doesn't have to worry about the negative effects climate change can bring. It's already coping with serious issues from sea level rise and land subsidence. The traffic pattern is a maze of detours, chiefly because city officials are taking the dramatic step to actually raise low-lying roads about 1 meter.
Everybody wants to be here. You have new restaurants, new people coming in to Miami each day. This is the best place to live.
More than a year ago, Purdy Avenue was elevated about 1 meter. Kenneth Diaz, who works at Panther Coffee facing the street, had a front row seat to the dramatic change.
It's definitely a point of concern, I think, especially for the business owners here looking long term. I mean, it's something that comes up for sure, like what it's going to be in a few years or decades.
While it may be needed, the vertical shift has its downside. Many businesses, once at street level, now look up to asphalt and traffic. While managers at Pubbelly would not talk on camera, they say their restaurant floods. Whether it's flood walls going up here in the harbor of Miami Beach or skyscrapers in the downtown area, it's hard not to notice all the construction going on in South Florida. Researchers and scientists that we talk to say they hope engineers are taking the future into consideration. While flooding may be bad in 2017, they warn by the year 2100, it could be catastrophic. Here's how the Miami area looks today. Scientists are putting together maps to show how flooding is expected to swamp much of the area by the middle of the century. Within the next 85 years, they predict sea level could rise close to 2 meters. Much of Miami would be underwater, creating as many as 2 million climate refugees.
We are missing an opportunity by pulling out of the Paris Agreement.
Climate scientist Karen Bolter created these maps detailing the future of South Florida. While just a projection, she says it shows what's at stake if greenhouse gases go unchecked.
Right now we're at a tipping point where if we curb emissions, we can slow things down, and the difference between 3 feet and 4 feet is huge.
The option now is spending millions and millions on flood walls, improved pumps, and raising streets. While it's a concern, Miami Beach has its own attitude, one that doesn't always focus on future consequences.
No, I think people in Miami Beach live for today.
Left unchecked, scientists say climate change will catch up with the hip Deco area. The only question is just how soon. Sean Caleb's CGTN, Miami Beach. Flooding from hurricanes. Extreme drought. Glaciers surrendering chunks of ice at an alarming rate.
Hurricanes can get trapped in those things.
Climate scientists like Ben Kirkman at the University of Miami are focused on predicting how climate change is affecting Earth. Important work considering the millions of people who live in low-lying coastal areas around the world, including Miami, where 2 million residents live little more than 1 meter above sea level.
Well, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that are below 4 feet.
It may look like one of Van Gogh's best-known paintings, but these dark blue lines and yellow swirls hold one of the keys to global flooding. The darker the blue, the weaker the ocean current.
When that current weakens, sea level rises.
He says this little yellow line that runs along South Florida is a strong current that helps keep the sea from rising. As the Greenland ice sheet melts, the current weakens dramatically. Another reason why many researchers like Kirkman are concerned about the U.S. pullout of the Paris Climate Accords.
I do think we have a moral imperative. We have a responsibility that because we've enjoyed the life of being the largest emitter and now the second largest emitter.
Many scientists believe U.S. participation in the Paris Agreement is essential to making climate change manageable in the coming decades.
It's not just about storm surge. It's not just about hurricane winds that come in and go away. This is something that is permanent, and it's building up over time.
There are also accusations from the scientific community that the U.S. is stuck in the past and on the wrong side of history when it comes to energy. While other nations, most notably China, are taking the lead in developing alternative fuels, U.S. President Trump continues to promote dependency on fossil fuels, coal and oil. Sean Caleb's CGTN in Washington.
California is ready for battle when it comes to climate change. The state, led by Governor Jerry Brown, is throwing down the gauntlet in response to President Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord. And that means pushing forward with defiance.
And here we are, 2017, going backwards. It cannot stand. It's not right. And California will do everything it can to not only stay the course, but to build more support in other states, other provinces, and with other countries. So we're not going away.
California is aggressively pushing new climate policies and goals, including the recently passed bill by the state Senate to use 100% renewable energy by 2045. The state has proven that business can thrive under tighter environmental regulations. The solar industry, for example, employed over 100,000 people in California in 2016 and is consistently seeing double-digit growth. Across the U.S., more people are employed in the solar power sector than the coal, gas, and oil energy industries combined.
You know, there is money to be made in green technologies, alternative fuels, and the amount of investment that's pouring into California has shown that. And as long as firms show that there's a demand for what they're producing, they're going to come here and they're going to continue with these kinds of businesses.
California's governor isn't alone in this fight. The governors of Washington and New York are teaming up to form the U.S. Climate Alliance. Now, those same three states are also part of the Under 2 Coalition, which limits the increase in the planet's temperature by under 2 degrees Celsius. 170 jurisdictions worldwide are part of this coalition, including several cities and provinces in China. Governor Brown just began an official trip to China where climate issues and solutions will be addressed. Brown is already being dubbed as the unofficial climate change ambassador.
Governor Brown has clearly distinguished himself as an articulate spokesperson who's committed to climate progress. He's off to China now to execute more international agreements to advance his very strong leadership in California.
The withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord won't kick in fully until 2020, the end of Trump's term. So a lot can happen between now and then. But opponents of the decision aren't taking any chances and are vowing to fight for a cleaner planet now and for future generations. May Lee, CGTN, Los Angeles.
Bring in our weather correspondent, Chad Myers. And Chad, you and I have been talking about climate change for a long time.
Absolutely.
Really need your perspective on this. We have a U.S. president who has famously called climate change a hoax, and still many people out there cannot accept that climate change is very real. So what can you say to them to convince them otherwise?
I think a major argument that they use is that there has been more CO2 in the atmosphere in the past. 3 million, 5 million, whatever million years ago, we've had more CO2 than this, and look, nothing happened. Christy, there were not 8 billion people on the planet at that time. We have to feed, we have to clothe, we have to house 8 billion people, and if we do that and we continue to ramp up the CO2 in this just completely, almost straight up type of line, the entire world, the planet is going to be in trouble. 16 of 17 of the warmest years that we've ever recorded. Now, I know we didn't record things in 1700, but 16 of the top 17 since 2000, the year 2000, and the only year that wasn't in 2000 was 1998. So you could argue 17 of the 17 hottest years ever have happened since 1998. Here's what we call the hockey stick as it goes straight up, the temperatures, the global temperatures now, and we can not only assess these by ground sensors and thermometers, but by the satellite. We know the Earth is warming. We know the Arctic is melting. If the sea ice melts in the Arctic and the permafrost across parts of Siberia, across the Yukon, and even parts of Alaska, if that melts, all of a sudden what the permafrost is a big bog. It's a mucky bog that has just disintegrated stuff from eons past. If that melts, all of a sudden methane is going to pour into the atmosphere at an alarming rate, because that's what bogs do. If they just sit there, you can smell the methane if you stand over a bog. Well, right now those bogs are frozen. You melt those, and you are in trouble. So also sea level rise. Think about places that only have maybe 1 or 2 meters of sea level, above sea level, the land in some of these island nations. Well, I know we're talking about how the ice will melt and the water will go up, but not just that. Think about your thermometer. When the little red tube at the bottom, that little red ball warms up, what happens? The thermometer goes up. If you warm the ocean, it also is going to expand. So we're missing that expansion problem, and we could be 1 meter above where we are now, and this is probably, at this point in time, a very small estimate of what we could actually see for sea level rise. How many billions of people live within a couple miles of the ocean? So what does climate change really matter? How is it going to affect people? Tornadoes and hurricanes, we have limited evidence that this is going to happen or change too much for global warming or climate change. Will there be more droughts? Yes. Will there be more heavy rain and flood events? Yes. That's the rub. You know, and people say, well, it's just going to rain someplace else. Yes, but in the middle of the breadbasket of the United States or in the middle of Russia, if it stops raining or if it floods, all of a sudden a major food source for those 8 billion people will go away. Coastal flooding, absolutely. Heat waves, and the heat can kill more people on average over the years than anything else, just depending on how that works out. We are on a crossroads here. We are right at a point where I tell my 12-year-old son, the world, when you grow up, may not look like it does right now.
Chad, climate change, as you point out so well, is very, very real. It demands an urgent solution. Thank you so much for your reporting. Chad Myers there. Take care, Chad.
You're welcome. All right.
Now,